What's up, everybody? Welcome to Respect Our Authority, Wisecrack South Park podcast. My name is Jared, and today we're talking about South Park Season 22, Episode 9. But first, I'm going to introduce the rest of the authoritarians. We got a full house today. We got Jacob.
Hello.
We got Lux.
Yo.
We got Amanda.
Hey.
And joining us today, we have a fifth member. It's a full house because there's a lot to talk about today. We've got Alec.
Hey.
All right, so today, Season 22, Episode 9, entitled Fulfillment. I'm going to go ahead and do some guesswork. I think that Jacob is going to give it a B+. I think that Amanda and Lux, because this is a part one, I don't really know how to guess. Part of me thinks that you guys are going to give it an A, but then also I feel like maybe there's some hesitancy because you don't know what's going to happen in Episode 2. So I'm going to go with just regular A for Amanda, and I'm going to go with B+ for Lux. And then Alec I already spoke to about this episode, so that doesn't count. So I guess...
But I didn't give you a score. What do you think it is?
That's true. I'm going to assume Alec gives it an A+. All right, how did I do? Let's go in order. Jacob, what do you think?
I think, yes, I would say probably B, but B+
Okay.
sounds right. I mean, about right. Wow, I don't know what just happened there. And no, it was good. It was good. I think probably a solid B. I don't know if it'd go to B+ yet.
All right, I think I said Amanda next. What do you think, Amanda?
You were spot on. This was great. I mean, they're communists now like me, so I love it.
But see, the thing is, I can't. It's a two-parter, and I can't imagine the revolution's going to go well, right?
Yeah, but just like in this next week, I can just walk around thinking that they became communists and they apologized to me personally for ever endorsing free enterprise. So I'm down with it.
Cool. Lux?
Yeah, I do have some mixed feelings. I think that as far as my excitement about seeing South Park do something that's like pro workers' rights and kind of communist, it's like A++++++++++. But it's like an episode of television is probably like a B+ or A-. There were some like plotting problems and shit.
Yeah, I found this episode to be very dense in the sense that like the whole bike plot was like getting lost in my mind. I wasn't even aware of it really until the second viewing. It was just, I mean, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot and some weird time allocation stuff, which I complain about every week, but I'll complain about again this week, that the time was not spent in the best possible ways.
In terms of a big song and montage?
No, that was great.
No, that was...
It's just like the
best
bike
part.
plot, like Jared said, is kind of undercooked and then ends up not spending as much time on other stuff that maybe could have used a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alec, what about you?
You're wrong. I give it an A, maybe an A-, and that's not because I didn't like it, but when I think A+, I'm like, well, what is the best South Park I've ever seen? And I don't think it necessarily comes close to some of those classic episodes that I would give an A+.
And was it because maybe it wasn't funny, or was it also just because it wasn't that interesting or as interesting?
No, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was funny, but and I haven't seen these episodes in a long time, but there's just some episodes I think about like laughing my ass off hysterically, like The Passion of the Jew, that comes to mind. But yeah, I mean, like, I like the episode. I don't think it was the funniest South Park episode I've ever seen. I think the ideas are interesting, which is why I have come on this podcast to discuss them with you all.
Yeah. All right, before we go into the recap, Ryan left us a voicemail with his thoughts. Let's hear it.
He left us like a 3,000 voicemail.
Because he kept fucking up. And then he even sent a message, "Dear Emily, who's our producer, don't play all my fuck-ups on the air, even if Jared tells you to."
Exactly. And I was on that chat. I was in that computer and I was like, Jared, Ryan doesn't want me to play all these, but it was like Office Space, like, Ryan
So I have to
here,
even if we're not going to play him, I have to make sure to humiliate him.
Exactly, of course. We have to. Here it is.
My favorite Ryan fuck up today was whatever message he tried to send to the group that was just the letter H.
Right. So what is that? Exactly.
That was true mystery to me.
All right, here's Ryan. Here we go.
What up, authoritarians? It's your boy Ryan. I just watched this part 1 of a part 2 episode. I fucking hate two-parters, but I'll try to give it a grade. Right now, it's all right. I'm glad, as someone who's super duper concerned about the oncoming robot revolution and the displacement of millions of workers and what the fuck are we going to do about that, I'm glad that they're tackling this, what I consider a very important issue. But it's hard to say what their conclusion is. So right now, it seems like it's going to be a capitalism versus socialism debate, which they've tackled before, but I think it's probably more pertinent now than ever. And I gotta say, the person I agree with the most in the episode is unfortunately alien butthead Jeff Bezos. Right, maybe, but I'm gonna see if I'll see what they have to say in the second part and see if they change my mind on how awesome socialism can be. But so yeah, let's see. Right now, I give it a C plus. Anyway, interested to hear y'all's thoughts. Case.
There you go.
I missed that, man.
Yeah, I'm looking down at the cable that's connecting the iPad and the soundboard here, and it says Amazon Basics on it. And everything in our life is fucking Amazon.
Yeah.
Ryan sounded like he was being chased by a mob and like ducked into an alley and left that voicemail and then continued running.
I guarantee
that was, crazy tone of voice.
I guarantee he woke up 5 minutes ago and is on his commute to Funhouse, and yeah, he's rushing. Anyway, let's go into a recap. So, tensions are high in the Stotch household, with Mr. Stotch struggling to make ends meet with his new job at the Amazon Fulfillment Center, and Butters trying to pimp his bike for the upcoming bike parade. Cartman and the other kids think the bike parade sounds dumb, but once they see a kid named Larry attract chicks with his sweet ride, they decide to order some badass stuff on Amazon and make 4 bikes around one theme. At the Fulfillment Center, a worker named Josh gets involved in a workplace accident that turns him into a Marxist box. When Amazon shrugs it off as human error, the workers decide to strike, but Mr. Stotch needs the money to get Butters the stuff for his bike. The strike causes a delay in commodities being delivered, spreading restlessness among the citizens of South Park and annoyance to Jeff Bezos, who comes to South Park to break the strike. Realizing they're not going to get stuff for their bikes in time for the parade, the kids go to the mall, but it's an abandoned wasteland full of zombies that has meager inventory when compared to Amazon. Bezos revokes everyone's Prime membership, and not wanting to slip into poverty, Mr. Stotch scabs on the strikers and gets back to work. Stan and the kids offer Bezos a new workforce in exchange for their bike stuff, while the Marxist box rallies the workers to revolution. To be continued. The one thing I definitely agree with Amanda here is it seems like just in the way that they're setting the stage of what is wrong, it seems like it's not only that the Marxist box is spouting, quotes, literal quotes from the Communist Manifesto, but it just seems like they are displaying the events around Amazon through a Marxist lens. Do you guys agree, disagree?
For sure. They're doing they do a lot of small things to place the Amazon question in the tradition of like American socialism, like Eugene V. Debs and Gompers and stuff like that. By doing things like having the weird Irish dock worker, right? Like the Irish dock workers in New York were like the initial sort of labor movement that became American socialism. And they have like the classic like company store stuff. They use the Tennessee, the Earl Tennessee song or Earl Tennessee Williams song.
Tennessee Ernie
I think
Ford.
it was originally by
it's Merle
Travis.
Merle Travis.
Merle Travis. They're using the Earl Tennessee whatever cover, which I know because it's one of my shower songs. So I listen to Union songs in the shower. That's it.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a really fun fact.
Alexa's weird shower routine.
That's a true thing about me. It's right up there with Which Side Are You On and The Guillotine from The Coup. But anyways,
it's such a good song.
They do a lot of really good work to like situate this question within like a history of American socialism in a way that does make it feel really sympathetic to those questions. So I'm with Amanda on this question. Like, yeah, it seems like they're communists now. Like which
is cool.
I can't believe I'm saying this because Jared was like, Alec, you're going to want to be on this podcast because they were literally quoting from Karl Marx, and I love talking about Karl Marx. So I can't believe I'm going to disagree with you two, but I actually think there's a reading of I don't think you're wrong, but I think there's a reading of this episode that firmly fits within Matt and Trey's like libertarian principles. But I think it's easy to lose sight of because it's like a kind of libertarian thought that not that it doesn't exist anymore, but it's just been like lost among like a pile of other shit that's like happening, which is that like when it comes to let me just say this. So like I think the company town framing, and I can talk more about this later, is the most important. So the song,
let's just get into it now. That's what I was going to go into first. So go ahead.
Sorry, what?
I was going to say we could talk about the company town stuff now because that was my first talking point anyway.
Well, yeah. So, but I'll just introduce it briefly, which is the song is about being a coal miner where you carry 16 tons, and then every day you're older and deeper in debt. So in company towns, there were factories, there were coal mines. They were in America, Britain. They were especially like in Catalonia, Spain, at the I think end of late 1800s, early 1900s. Was you wouldn't even get paid in money. You would get paid in essentially Chuck E. Cheese tokens that you would take to the store that was also owned by the company, where they set the prices. And especially it varied place by place, but especially in places like Catalonia, it was more or less like slavery with extra steps, because if you saved up money from this sort of currency that they've made up, you couldn't go anywhere with it. You were essentially in the middle of the woods in this little settlement in it, and you couldn't take that money and go anywhere else because it was only valuable in the company store where they set the prices. So it was very hard to escape them. Now, the reason I think there's them being libertarian, they haven't gone full communist, is that I think a libertarian might say that competition is good, and these kinds of framings, which the episode also covers, that are aided by the government, like when business and government gets in bed together, destroys competition, and that's bad. Now, the part of me that agrees with Lux and Amanda is that oh yeah, this is just the logical conclusion of business. It's to be monopolistic, but I do think they would say something about how when the government, is happening in New York City now, gives $1.5 billion in tax breaks to Amazon to open up either a headquarters or fulfillment center or whatever, they're distorting the market in ways that allow shitty things to happen.
But see, that's why this is an important place to draw a distinction between Marxist socialism and American socialism that they're doing in the episode. The American socialism has always been way more divorced from the state as an entity than Marxist, traditional Marxist socialism, right? It's always sort of been grassroots. We've never, Eugene V. Debs ran for president and got 8 votes, right? It's never been about situating or resituating where the government works, but rather resituating the position of workers vis-a-vis companies. That's always sort of been the movement of American socialism, and this episode's very much that. It's not I think you're not wrong that there's a way to read it, but it seems when they put Bezos as a butthead alien, they're playing sort of labor-y songs. They have all these questions of individual workers' rights, stuff like that. That feels much more in the tradition of American socialism than American libertarianism, which yeah, they'd oppose the sort of government's funding Amazon thing, but I don't think they'd make the position of the consumer is all that matters problematized in the way the episode problematizes that claim.
So
that makes sense.
So under your guess, Alec, you're saying that probably the mayor and Bezos being in cahoots is going to lead to something bad in the next episode.
Well, I think it has led to something bad. It's called the fulfillment center.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, I guess, that's already happened. But I mean, the fulfillment center is already built and operating before Bezos and the mayor actually meet in the episode.
Right. But I think in Matt and Trey's mind, I think very much is the Amazon headquarters. And again, the headquarters is not a fulfillment center, although I don't know if it's part of it. But Amazon had this contest that was what city will give us will throw the most amount of money at us for us to move our headquarters there, which is happening probably with all parts of Amazon, is what kind of money. If anyone watches Silicon Valley, there's kind of an amazing episode about this concept where they gut the fire department so they can afford to give enough subsidies for Hooli to move there, and then the factory burns down. But yeah, it's I think on their mind is the way the government just throws money at these companies to open up there. And then even Tweak's dad makes a comment that's well, we have to work here because our business has gone out of business, our company has gone out of business, and there's just a total lack of competition or choices for laborers, right? When you're in a company town, which I think is the overriding metaphor for here, there's literally no choice if you are trying to sell your labor, which I would say breaks this whole idea of the freedom of contract and stuff like that. I don't exactly know what Matt and Trey would say about it.
I think that basically checks out. And then also, just to go back to my infatuation with Eugene V. Debs for a sec, that early American socialism was opposed to
can you just tell us who that is?
The government funding various companies and shit, right? Because that was opposed directly Tammany Hall politics in New York, right? Those are all an interrelated struggle, which is yeah, I think they're libertarians, but I think that they're not. I think that they are engaging with sort of the tenets of American labor history in a way that's not strictly libertarian, because there are certain claims they make in the episode and certain historical parallels that can sort of run both directions.
Lux, can you tell us who Eugene V. Debs is?
Eugene V. Debs was sort of the best American socialist until me. No, he's far better than me. He was an organizer and a political activist. He's the guy who said, like, as long as they're lower class, I am of it. As long as there's a criminal class, I'm in it, etc. And was like the first person to really put forward like an American form of socialism as like a potential political framework.
And when was he active?
Early 20th century.
Okay. So this whole...
And he fucking rules.
Cool. So this discussion with the company towns and how they kind of funnel all the workers' income back into the company. So not only does the song 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford really embody this well, but also later in the episode, Bezos uses the term consumer worker. And I think it's basically the same thing.
That.
Yeah, he uses, especially like towards the end when he revokes everybody's Prime membership and they get downgraded to USDA choice. He says,
that joke's so good.
He says, see, the worker is being pulled in two directions, and this is what will break them. I actually have I was going to bring that up later, but I think that the whole consumer worker term perfectly embodies what Alec was just talking about.
Yeah, and I think the reason I think this intro song is kind of like a great framing thing is that it's not like company towns were a local thing, right? You were literally, a company would build these houses and a school for your kids to go to, and they would kind of control your life. But in a weird way, and Amazon's not the first to do this, our economy has created a situation where it's kind of like a dispersed, I think, company town, where Amazon with like Amazon Basic, groceries, and all this stuff really, and it's not the only option. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but like, it seems like one of the few options is when you don't make a lot of money to put your money back into Amazon because they're making the only things you can afford. And a similar dynamic happens or happened with Walmart, where Walmart would put out all the local businesses in a town, and then the people making $8 an hour at Walmart, all they could afford was other things at Walmart, where, you know, if you want to get a little poetic about it, it's like kind of slavery with extra steps, where your only option is to put your money back into the company that's employing you.
I actually think Walmart's a pertinent thing to mention, especially in the context of South Park, where like they had the Walmart episode. In the Walmart episode, they talk about boycotting Walmart or striking or whatever, and the episode makes it very clear that like that will never work. There will always be another Walmart or whatever. But this episode has a very different take on like mobilizing workers. Like, it's clear that even if it doesn't work at the end of the story, it's a problem for Jeff Bezos, and like has an impact that 10 seasons ago they were like, this doesn't work or do anything. So even in that respect, it seems like their understanding of like what constitutes on the ground, like politics and mobilization, has like changed in the past, you know, several years, which makes sense because the world's like a much more obviously shitty place than it was 10 years ago.
All right. So some other details I just want to point out that kind of go to what Alec was talking about. So I love the part where Mr. Stotch goes to the bar. He's like, what you got on tap? And we got Amazon, Amazon Light, and Amazon IPA. Just really controlling every facet of these people's lives. But I want to move on to talking about the Marxist box. My first question is...
I was saying it's Alec, Lux, and Austin in a box.
All in a box. You guys are all there. Why do you think he's a box? Is it just that he's completely dehumanized and he himself has become a commodity? Is there anything more to it? Is it just silly? What do you guys think?
This is actually where I think that the episode maybe is going to go in its direction of anti sort of leftist stuff, is that he's literally just like packaged sloganeering of communism, like in the most literal possible sense, right? Like he's a box that just shits out like quotes the manifesto and like things like "follow me into hell" or whatever. It's literally just a prepackaged position in political epistemology that like that everyone has access to. That doesn't like, you know, isn't organically generated in the same way, which is a critique of. Sorry, let me retake that because my dog got out of its cage mouth. That is a prepackaged thing that like people. That's a common critique of the left, that like they're just spouting the lines of the Soros people, right, or whatever, or spouting the lines of Marx, whatever, without knowing what it means. And so I think that might be very much a part of this whole thing, that like you have this prepackaged politics, but no one actually knows the full extent of it, even the guy in the box.
Yeah.
That's just one take of a possible way that they could. That's what I thought their.
No, I
critique
thought
might
that
go
was
in the end.
interesting. Amanda, were you about to say something?
Well, yeah, so I guess I also, like Lux, felt like the box being the leader of the movement was obviously possibly a premonition that they were going to end up making fun of us. But but also, I mean, it was just such an amazing, like, when he was like, what happens if you open the box, and he's like, all my guts spill out. I just felt like it was purposely like a comical, because it was comical watching the newsman interview him and be like, well, what do you think is really going on? And he's like, well, I'm in a box now, so things probably aren't great. So there's also kind of just a literal where it's just,
Does it get hot in the box?
yeah.
If you pay shipping, can you fly anywhere?
Right.
There are
Also, I don't know. I just thought it was so funny too how, like, when Mr. Scotch brought home the goods from Amazon, he brought them home in boxes, even though he obviously could have just, like, you would think could have just like brought them home as like things in a bag. So I felt like just the omnipresence of the box was just another Amazon is everywhere kind of thing.
I thought that was a great alienation joke in there. It's not only that he takes it home in a box, but that he spends all day at the factory, you know, working with these commodities, and then he goes home and a drone delivers it to him. Like,
Right.
why couldn't he just bring it home himself?
He's so disconnected from it all.
Yeah. And then there's another kind of thing when the mall zombie, or when I think it's either Cartman or Stan asks, y'all stay here because you want to work? And then the zombie says, it is our purpose. I couldn't help but think of, you know, the Marxist lens of that, you know, our, that labor creates our species being. Yeah. Did you guys have any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, that's pretty much spot on. Like the everything about this episode, that's why this is so frustrating as a two-parter, because it's so dense and there's so much interesting, not traditionally South Park-y ideas in it that, like, I'm reluctant to super dive into everything, just because, like, what if next week they just like 180 and they're just like, haha, I caught you nerds. And so, like, it's like Ryan said, I don't know the conclusion they're going to draw, so it's hard to say, but like this does all seem to speak to like a really clear and effective critique of like the digital Amazon economy. Like, I live in a city with a fulfillment center, and I know people have worked at the fulfillment centers, and it sucks ass for those people, but it's dope for me because anything I order gets here the next day.
Right. Like, once again, we're being roasted because I like completely subscribe to like socialist views, but I totally order like pens from Amazon because they're 50% cheaper.
I feel like I owe it to the podcast
we work
serve
with like Amazon worker people, like doing DSA stuff with them, and I'll still order, like, I literally ordered stuff for signs for those people from Amazon.
Right.
Like,
I said I feel like I owe it to the podcast.
Psycho.
it's just like that's the world we live in, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have time. I don't have a car. I don't have time to drive to Target and like do that, but I can get like 50 poster boards or whatever and markers and like shit to make stuff in my house in 20 minutes.
Your socialist rally, all provided by Amazon.
I mean, not just mine, but like the majority of them. Like,
Yeah.
all over the place.
course.
Like, that's
Were you guys drinking Pepsi too and like handing them to cops?
no, I can't get away with that because I'm not quite as pretty as Kendall Jenner. I think I just get my last cop interaction was me getting punched by a policeman, so I think I have a little worse track record.
There's one. I think this also speaks to Matt and Trey are clearly kind of like interested in automation and displacing people. Was it the first episode, the last one, where they're complaining about the robots taking their jobs?
Yeah, and the
right?
Amazon Alexa's basically replacing jobs and stuff like that.
That was it. That was last season, the beginning of last season.
This connection is tenuous, but I think this is kind of what is happening / they're getting at. But just like the insane speed of the factory in that opening montage, and then people dying in accident. I just read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, which is early 1900s, around the same time Eugene Debs is doing stuff, where workers are just being fucked over, and then they're starting to organize. And Upton Sinclair was also a socialist, and the character, gets involved in socialism. But specifically, it's like one of the big criticisms of Marx, really from like all sides, is that the proletariat, they're factory workers, whatever, but that doesn't really speak to the American economy, at least anymore, where people have gone in service industries, creative industries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But with the rise of like fulfillment centers, but also Uber, Amazon Flex, Instacart, and like these people just doing kind of these, I don't want to say their jobs, but like this kind of like hyper regimented job. It's not necessarily the factory is back, but like these same issues of people who are like extremely precarious in their job, who don't know how many hours they'll have from one day to the next, who, you know, one of the things that he talks about in The Jungle is like, if you get sick and don't show up for work, you're like immediately fired because 1,000 people are waiting outside. And I was reading an article about like people talking about working in an Amazon factory. They're like, I came in with a doctor's note and I still got reprimanded for taking a day off because I missed my quota. So it seems like these issues that were very prominent in the early 1900s that kind of disappeared for a while. I don't know, like, are they coming kind of back in a way with the way the economy's turning?
Interesting.
Yes. It's very interesting.
Jacob, you were about to say something.
Affirmative.
No,
I think that's 100% true.
I have a few
Jacob,
things I
what
wanted
do you think?
Well, no, I said I feel like I owe it to the podcast to be a sort of a different voice, getting to what Amanda said, which is the double-edged sword of this convenience, which the whole season is kind of pointing to continually, which is like there's this, but this episode is different, I think, from Bird Scooters, where really many of us don't even really want that convenience, and it makes us sick. Here you have this double-edged sword of, God, the convenience is so good. The same way you could look at it like the veganism movement, like, God, you know, meat tastes so good, yet maybe there's this whole level of exploitation that you don't want to think about. And Amazon obviously is the same thing. Like, God, we love the convenience. I'm very happy, honestly, as a consumer, that there's innovation happening in the marketplace in this kind of way, where where the logistics allow for you to order one of millions of products and for it to be delivered in 24 hours or sometimes couple hours. But then the externalities and the repercussions of that is you can either choose to turn a blind eye to it, you can know about it and still do it anyway, like Amanda, or like all of us, really, or you can boycott it completely. But I do really appreciate the innovation. So you can call me a Randian. I'm more like Randian, but like I think that there's a portion of this that I do appreciate for the human race, in the sense of like, wow, the market demands allowed for this innovation to kind of come to a head, where logistics have been solved in the same way, like theoretical physics. You figure out the nature of space-time as another dimension. That's cool. It's interesting. And I'm glad that someone pushed forward for that. It didn't really affect many people's living lives. Here you've got innovation that's more for, you know, in terms of consumption. But then again, the repercussions are intense. And I get that. But I'm kind of glad that at least that kind of human progress is happening in terms of logistics. And then secondly, I think I wanted to talk a little bit about, that specter of automation that's surrounding these employees. I think in that opening montage, the labor itself doesn't really look like back-breaking labor. There's a little bit of like the forklift. There is one portion where Steven is actually lifting up a box. I thought, oh, he's not lifting anything. The entire time it's just machines. But there's like, there's someone watching the boxes roll by, and then there's someone who just has a finger on the button to stop the label machine, and that's the entire job. You're just watching robots. Again, something interesting, again, especially with where is that going to lead as automation kind of goes off the charts and off the rails, and eventually we don't have to work. Everything is taken care of. Where's that going to leave us with all this excess capacity? And
well, I think we can also connect this question to one of the cliffhangers of the episode, and that is, who are the workers that the kids are offering to Bezos? Are they... I mean, part of me is thinking that they're going to do the obvious, which is Latino immigrants, and that the bike parade will be some sort of...
No, it's the mall.
No, the mall.
Mall people.
Oh, it's the mall people. Fuck me.
They want to work.
Well, because I thought that the bike parade would be some sort of visual stand-in for the migrant caravan or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Right. I was confused by that reference, like where the history of the changing face of immigration. I don't know what that
Right.
was.
So I feel like that's, once we see the bike parade in part 2, I feel like that's going to be relevant somehow. But I guess that kind of totally burst my bubble now that you guys are right that it's the mall workers, the zombies.
I read the changing face of immigration as like Cartman as a sociopath, just wanting to like get brownie points with like a possibly like
with
normal
the
audience.
chicks.
Yeah,
And this is also because I just watched an Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where the premise was very similar.
Well, it's like the
yeah,
PC
I
Bros
thought it was
crushing
like Cartman
puss.
and those guys. Like, there's been this sort of like weird performative wokeness to a lot of the kids' choices this season. I thought that was just more of the same.
Got it.
Yeah, so let's talk about the bike parade. So there's one great kind of meta part to the episode where Cartman says, whatever happened to us? It used to always be the four of us. Now Stan has moved to a farm. I have anxiety. Kenny, nobody really talks to Kenny. And then there's just Kyle.
Whatever he does.
We used to do everything together. What if we did this like the old days? So obviously a lot of people have been talking about like, where's Kenny? Where's Kenny? Kenny's never in the new episodes. And there's a lot of times the characters are subbed for Butters or Clyde or something else. What do you guys think that this callback to earlier seasons is going to manifest itself somehow in part 2?
I don't know. I feel like personally I'm getting a little tired of like the self-referential like character talking to the camera sort of thing. It reminds me of how they keep doing the thing of like everything sucks. We're talking like, how a character complains to the camera at like the beginning of half the episodes. I feel like it's getting kind of old. I don't know. That's just me.
It's just amazing that this is even I mean it's just another thing going on in this episode where there's already so much going on.
Yeah, it's a really busy episode. Part of me thinks that they are gonna like go back to some kind of old South Park thing in the next episode where like things get totally insane and off the rails in like a Tooth Fairy Tats kind of way. Just because there's so many things colliding that like how are they gonna get all out of it without like kind of Deus Exing some stuff? But I'm not sure.
Alternatively,
I kind of think that's a teaser for that, but I guess we'll find out.
Alternatively, they just troll the audience and everything that this built up to some sort of conclusion as to how to fix the economy or how to address economic woes, and they just totally drop the ball and just have a pure dick and fart joke episode just like the old days.
I mean, that would be.
I would kind of respect that.
That was actually speaking like their like whole history of the economy. That was one of the most fun things I had about watching this episode. Is that like I think my second or third assignment for Wisecrack was researching South Park and the economy.
Yeah.
And so comparing this episode to those episodes that I researched is like a really crazy difference. Like the progression from like their early positions of like corporations are good in like Tweaks Coffee to like maybe the internet is bad and like Too Many Friends to like the economy is crazy in Margaritaville to like crazy mega corporations are run by aliens that control all of our movements through like a weird Alexa panopticon in this episode, like is a pretty incredible like arc.
No, that's true. It's
of argumentation across like 15 years or whatever.
Definitely. So let's talk about Jeff Bezos and his ass head. So first of all,
I got things to say.
Yeah. So first of all, it's a Star Trek reference called Telosians, and as our resident Star Trek nerd, Alec, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, wait, that's from a Star Trek episode, but I don't remember which one. But it's actually the very first episode of Star Trek, the pilot, which then got turned into 2 episodes, the Menagerie, whatever. That doesn't matter. They're a race of aliens who speak telepathically, exactly like Jeff Bezos does. But the plot of that episode is they like lure humans into their planet with like a fake distress signal and then trap them in a cage. And their whole thing is that they've learned to use their awesome mind power so much to like create illusions around everyone. Like they could convince you that you're, currently halfway around the world or in space or literally anywhere. They can just put illusions in your mind. And they've trapped like a woman down there, and they kind of like live off of it's almost like a zoo to them. And they want a mate for her so that their illusion will be even better. And also they destroyed their planet somehow with nuclear war. But yeah, Jeff Bezos has the same sort of bulging alien head as they do and also speaks telepathically. So I thought that was interesting.
I don't think it was a Star Trek reference. I think it's a Superman reference. I think you're wrong.
No, you are 100% wrong.
It's a reference to Brainiac. He has the same screen as Brainiac. He has the same background layer as Brainiac, who also has a giant head and communicates telepathically. And additionally, Brainiac does all these schemes of like watching everyone and like manipulating them from above using his like giant brain science and shit like that. Like the part where he's looking through the Amazon Alexa and like explaining his evil plan to the mayor as they like watch Stotch like struggle with his shit is like 100% Brainiac.
Okay, I just googled Brainiac, and first of all, he's green and has wires coming out of his head.
It's like
There's different
Hellraiser.
artists.
Visually,
Do
it's
it-
much more similar to the Telosians.
Thank you, Jared.
You gotta hold on. There's like older Brainiacs. I pulled up a Brainiac earlier to make this comparison.
Oh, Brainiac.
What was that screen supposed to be shaped like? That was bothering me.
Well, the Alexa screen?
The Alexa screen, yeah.
Does Alexa have a screen?
No.
I don't know.
Oh, there's one little
It's
one.
pretty-
The screen that he's watching them through?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a weird cloud. Is it, I don't know. It's just really weirdly shaped.
I don't think it was anything. It just looked like a circle, right?
No, it's like a cloudy kind of thing. It's like a very specific. I froze it on this frame, and it's like very weird looking. Anyway,
That might also be from that episode. Also, I'm looking at old Brainiac, and again, he's just got an exposed brain. He doesn't have like this bald, almost.
Yeah, with the
butt
veins.
shape.
This is a crude reference, but like
the penis?
bulging veins like a dick on his head.
Yeah, right. That's a dickhead.
Well, isn't the butt a reference, or at least to me, reminded me of that? Have you seen the movie Evolution, where they have the alien that has a butt for a head?
No,
I
the back
have
of-
seen that movie, but I don't
know
remember it.
The reference.
But I mean, there was a
but
South Park
the point
episode
being,
with
there's like a bunch of
buttheads.
different things that this could be, but they're all weird brain villains. I think is the primary like overriding thing about it, right? They're all like manipulative, like
Yeah, they're all manipulative.
above and beyond, like outsider looking in type villains.
do any of them talk telepathically? Because that was fun. I liked
Yeah,
that.
the Telosians do, and also they destroyed their planet. So Jeff Bezos.
Well, yeah, well,
Valid.
yeah.
So-
Brainiac, supervillain, also telepathically, also Jeff Bezos.
Just the amount of
maybe
things.
it's just that Jeff Bezos is really easy to stick into the slot of any of like that format of supervillain whose power is being super smart and evil.
And having
Sure.
having like a god complex, which I don't know if the Telosians do. It seems like Brainiac probably does. But just more to the point of how much this episode is tackling, we have Mr. Stotch praying to God, and of course Bezos hear it through his Alexa. So now we have, on the one hand, we have Bezos with his god complex. On the other hand, we have Alexa as this kind of panoptic thing that's always surveilling us. And I just want to read the quote that he says to the mayor when he's watching Mr. Stotch go through his crisis. He says, "See how the worker begins to question his determination. Without his Amazon Prime status, he fluctuates between being and non-being. Now, torn between memberships, the consumer worker will reason that the strike is pointless." So I think this just goes more to what Alec was talking about with the Ernie Ford or the Tennessee Ernie Ford song, is that the company store funnels all basically is monopolistic because it funnels all the income back to the owners of the company. So if you take away their ability to buy the commodities from the store, then they're going to go back to work because they're dependent on it.
Right.
I also want to talk about the multiple meanings of fulfillment. And
God,
this
that
is
was a beautiful, profound song.
yeah.
Yeah, the song was
Unfulfilled.
great. That was
The episode is called Unfulfilled, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not fulfilled. Yeah, unfulfilled. Yeah, what a great. I was just thinking, no, obviously the same thing. No one's immune here. So even Randy's on the farm waiting for his package, and he comes and debates that later. The employees aren't working themselves, and they feel unfulfilled. They kind of feel sad about it. But the playing on words of fulfillment. Great.
But there is a sense of cynicism here and playfulness in the fact that they're poking fun at people because the fact that they can't get their shit, just their stuff,
Yeah, the bullshit
is
they
the
don't
only
need.
thing that makes them fulfilled.
Or they think that's what they need.
Right.
It's also kind of, I feel like, mocking Amazon for calling their buildings the fulfillment center anyway, as if like
I didn't think about that.
oh yeah, like that's where people get fulfilled. That's where like everyone, getting your pens in the mail in 2 days is super fulfilling.
Is that
Right, and they're
strictly Amazon,
super
or is that
ironic compared to like the lack of fulfillment of like laborers
Yeah.
and working at Amazon and
Do you-
like working in those fulfillment
Do
centers.
you guys know if that term package fulfillment and logistics fulfillment is that strictly Amazon? I think it's like anything in e-commerce has always been
is
called
it?
fulfillment.
Okay, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know
I think
anything about e-commerce, so that's totally.
But Amazon might have started that. I don't know.
E-commerce term.
I think just a commerce term, like whenever you're shipping anything, it's like the fulfillment.
Yes, I just
Although maybe I learned that term
because of
I used to
Amazon.
work for a Catholic website selling Catholic goods.
Really? Holy
fun
water?
story.
What, like candles?
Candles, holy water, just like
Holy water. Wow.
essentially like Jesus tchotchkes.
You were
I had a
selling
statue for a
fulfillment.
long time
Wow.
of Jesus playing basketball that I got from work.
It's literally
But
every
yeah, we used the word
Christian's
fulfillment there
nightmare.
a lot, but again, it was e-commerce.
Every Christian's nightmare is that some Jew is the one making the money off of selling them all this Christ stuff.
Oh no! Oh, so this company, I'm not gonna name names. It was owned by a lesbian couple, one of which was Catholic, but one of which was atheist. But they're like, all of our suppliers are Jewish.
Oh, look at this. Even this podcast. Look at this. 5 Jews in this podcast.
Right, what is this? We targeted.
There's a great line that I think kind of speaks to this kind of sarcastic thing of like not only I don't know where the sarcasm is pointed, because I feel like the sarcasm is on one hand pointed at kind of Marxist thought, because it's like does labor really fulfill us? Is labor really the thing that affirms our species being? There's also the, in this what one could call late capitalist era is really the only sense of fulfillment we can get is from just meaningless shit. But there's a great line before the boys make it to the mall where they say, I mean, before we could get whatever we wanted, where did we get stuff? So, like, yeah, if we could get whatever we wanted, if that's what Amazon is doing, we have whatever we wanted. I don't really think that we're meant to believe that at least even from the consumer's perspective, taking the workers out of the equation for a second, were people just fulfilled? I mean, Cartman, I guess, is fulfilled, but he's just
Piece of shit.
He's a piece of shit. He's super shallow and stuff like that. So were we even truly fulfilled before the workers went on strike?
Like when you can have anything you want.
Yeah, that's how
within
they
2
paint it.
days,
Yeah.
You don't appreciate anything.
I guess, or that this promise of just fulfillment based on commodities giving our lives meaning is shallow and pointless. Although I don't know if maybe I'm just imposing that on the episode or if it's actually present somewhere.
No, I mean, I think that there is. I mean, a lot of these episodes this season have been like reckoning with like the way that the new ways the world exists, like changing our understandings of who we are and like what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having any access to anything whenever you want does make that change. And I think the episode does kind of speak to like the way in which, I mean, here's the way to put it. Part of the way the episode is dealing with these questions, like it gets to a really core element of like the difficulty of sort of socialist or labor organizing, which is that when the laborers take action against the company suffers, but also the consumers suffer. So the consumers turn against the laborers too.
Yeah.
And even some of the laborers turn against the laborers because like they want to consume for their families or whatever, like Mr. Stotch. And so lines like that, like when we could get anything, like what did we do before, blah, 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 speak to like how important Amazon's become as a thing, which is why, like, which presents the stakes of the striking, if that makes sense. Like that line establishes sort of the stakes and the meaningfulness of like the political action because of how ingrained and important the mechanical thing of Amazon has become. Like Jacob was saying earlier, that like we have access to this thing now that we've never had before. And even if it's not fulfilling, it is like the new social structure we live in.
Do you feel like so with the bike parade, I'm torn if it's like some kind of reference to like older, easier days, or if it's just making consumerism as a metaphor, like for like a stupid, pointless parade where we just put all of our consumer items on display as like a means of like getting accolades or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what I read it. I read it as, oh, they're sad that they can't get their stupid shit for their stupid thing.
Because it's the only way that they can create value in that.
I thought it was more scene setting for like the dock worker and stuff. Like the first thing you said, Amanda. That's sort of what I thought that was like to set a tonal mood.
I'm with Alec on it. Like to me, I just thought like the first prize is $50. How much is it going to cost to be able to parade your shit around to even win that $50? You're going to spend hundreds. I mean, look at how you can set up your bike and buy all that crap to win this prize. Yeah, you're just truly parading what you're able to consume.
But I mean, that's why the $50 thing is like why I thought it was sort of a time capsule-y moment, because like a $50 grand prize, so like I can't believe it. Like, Father, please let me go run in the race. I could win $50. Like it's such like an early 20th century like amount of money and prize thing compared to today. And they did a lot of that kind of work of like pretending we were in earlier times, like making Amazon the factory in like in the mythology or whatever.
And why does Bezos get so excited? You didn't tell me there's a parade. Is it just because he can optimize that opportunity, exploit the folks again? Because he's like anything that relates to the customer is valuable. Remember that part at the very
The
end?
only thing that
the only thing that
matters
matters.
is the customer, yeah.
But he says, "Oh, you didn't tell me there's a bike parade. This is great news." You know, he gets excited. Is it because he'll use it as an opportunity to create a flash sale, or he's going to own the parade now, or what's going to happen there?
He's going to make a conspicuous consumption play and just make everybody want to buy more by, I don't know, like lionizing a certain kind of consumption in the parade. I don't know.
I have a kind of out there prediction, but I'm just going to throw it out there.
Sure.
Which is that he's going to up the prize, and then everyone's going to dump all this money, and it's going to be a joke about how cities throw all this effort, energy, and money into impressing Amazon enough so that they open their headquarters there.
Ooh, I think that's a good prediction. I actually want to, open up to more predictions. What do you guys think is going to happen with the revolution?
I feel like it's gonna get stopped, and because everyone's gonna want their shit. Although that would have been a one episode, huh?
I'm really hoping that the revolution happens and we have this big day after episode. You know, and they always say, like, Zizek always talks about, like, what happens the day after the revolution? And that's something that in media in general I've been starving to see, because we have things like Mr. Robot that keep delaying the revolution because they don't even know what to do the day after.
In Mr. Robot, it happened, and the after the revolution is regretting the revolution.
Oh, really? It did happen? Well, it definitely took fucking 3 seasons. It did certainly, like, the revolution supposedly happens at the end of season 1, and then they backtrack. It's like, no, let's delay it until the end of season 2. And then I never watched season 3. But then, yeah, like Zizek always says, like, I would sell my mother into slavery to see V for Vendetta 2. And I hope that this episode is V for Vendetta 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's South Park. I think it's gonna find some way to hit so that the end is the same as the beginning of the first episode of the season. Like, it's just gonna find a way to get everything back to square one.
I don't think they have to do that. Like, because even like in the last season, Canada's nuked. I don't know if they're still nuked, but they can just do ridiculous things and just reset the clock whenever.
Yeah, totally. I just think that like this season feels more sitcom-y, and one of like the rules of like sitcom writing is the end of the episode. Like at the end of the episode, everyone's back to where they were at the beginning of the episode. You know what I mean? And that just feels more structurally in line with the way the season has been so far, especially with like these ideas of like resignation and like giving up.
Right. Yeah. Like, I feel like nothing can really change because the point of the season is like we're screwed and stuck.
So what are you supposed to... I guess you guys said that, all right, so the new workers that the boys are offering to Bezos are the zombie mall workers. But in terms of what those are stand-ins for, how is that any different than Mr. Stotch? Mr. Stotch is, or even Mr. Tweak is probably a better example. His company went out of business, not unlike the mall workers, and now he works for Amazon. So what's really the difference here? Do you see what I'm saying?
Like who?
Yeah.
What?
Like
yeah,
what is
there's
the
more...
what is the stand-in? Like if we're just talking about, hey, right now you have workers whose businesses went out of business striking. Now we're going to provide you with more workers whose businesses went out of business. Doesn't really make sense.
They're the what's it called? The unemployed suffering class necessitated by modern capital. Like you have to have people like that so that you can tell, you know, like you were saying, like Alec mentioned with Upton Sinclair, like the whole thing is like you have to meet these certain business standards because they can just fire you and replace you with anyone off the street. Right. And so those people are the anyone off the street.
Yeah.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you can go for it.
I was just going to say, you know, as long as the episode is spouting Marxist metaphors, it's like the reserve army of the unemployed. But I mean, I kind of think, and this is also what historically happened when factories would go on strike, is they would ship in people from out of town. Specifically, like when there was different factory strikes in the North, they would ship in African Americans from the South, and then there would be like all kinds of like terrible racial tension and riots and shit like that. But like in this, you have like the scabs are the ghouls, and I want maybe like they'll turn back into normal people, and the ghoul and like the strikers will turn back into the ghouls. That's like a weird out there theory, but
that's actually what I was imagining too. I don't think it's that weird or out there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it'll speak to the fact like, oh yeah, even if you want to like you reject the terrible working conditions that you have, like they can just replace you. And I think that speaks to the sort of defeatism that that they've been going for this season. And also, and this is just a quick aside, did anyone think the mall and the people were supposed to be like Fallout and the ghouls in Fallout, which is why I call them ghouls?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is that the song, the 16 Tons song is in Fallout 76, which is making me wonder.
Interesting.
Which is making me wonder with all the Red Dead Redemption stuff and the very accurate citations to the game. Like somebody, whether it's Matt or Trey, these people play video games.
Yeah.
Like they're really into games because it was funny. After I watched the episode, I looked up the song on YouTube and there were like 100 comments saying Fallout 76 brought me here. This song is so good. And then like 2 comments because the season had just aired said South Park brought me here. So I'm wondering if someone was playing Fallout 76 and that kind of not only inspired the mall, but also to use that song.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Fallout
wouldn't
76.
surprise me.
When's the last time you guys were at a mall? I was just there a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
It's been probably years.
It's really terrifying.
Mall, yeah, I can't even.
Well, we
I
all
can't
live
even
in
remember.
cities.
Yeah, well,
Every once in a while, my friends and I will get high and go to the Cheesecake Factory and then get kind of drunk and wander around the mall.
Right.
So like about a month ago was the last time I did that.
so LA's got really nice malls. Austin's got nice malls now. Like they're starting to go outdoors and introduce
Oh,
sunlight
yeah.
and stuff like that. But I'm saying, like, I was back in Laredo, Texas, back in my hometown, and I was there for a funeral, and my little cousin who's from LA is like, "What do you do here?" And I was like, "Well, you kind of go to the mall or the movies." So you go to the mall, and this is like those old, like the Simon malls, that brand. It's from, you know, everything that from what we grew up in, like the 80s, like from 30 years ago. And they are just dead. I mean, there's nothing to buy.
No stores or no people.
No people, and the stores that are left are sad. There are some big brands still, like H&M is there, and like they're going for like that brighter lighting and stuff, but it's just dead and sad. And it's really like, I sent out a photo essay to you guys on Telegram about these dead abandoned malls that are just creepy. It feels like that. It feels like what they just painted, like all these zombies, like, please buy something. Want a phone cover? Want some hand cream? Like, I've had no one to talk to for 3 days, please. But yeah, they are. I mean, it's a terrible experience. It's just. But what's the alternative? Like these employees are saying it's our purpose. It's our purpose to work. What's the alternative?
Is that sarcastic or not?
I think people want to work. I mean, even all of the rioters, all the protesters, everyone on strike looks sad.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like they just look like, I have nothing to do but this, and now I can't provide. And of course, they're in this like weird hamster wheel trap. But what's the alternative? Like, what if they don't work? They're going to be sad anyway. I think we're going to end up in a place like that anyway with automation eventually.
Well, Alec is going to tell you gay space communism.
Fully automated.
Fully automated gay space I'm sorry.
Fully automated luxury
Luxury
has
I'm
to be in
sorry.
that things.
Wait, can
Yeah,
you?
the answer is Star Trek. but
We're all talking.
Yeah.
Wait, can you say that again? What is it? What are you
Fully
talking?
it's basically Star Trek.
yeah, there's just a meme online. It's like, what do we want? We want fully automated luxury gay space communism.
which is what I also advocate for.
Which is
and
basic
Marx
and
does
also
too, in a way, right?
But no one's working.
And the funniest thing is
Marx,
that Austin
Marx talks about how the end point, the transition to socialism, is fully automated labor and like a liberated workforce that can work for the purpose of working on for its own sake without the need for producing for a company or for a state, where that's all taken care of by automation. Like that's in the Das Kapital, like that's in there.
The funniest thing is that Austin is making a documentary about this subject, and he definitely needs to change the title to Fully Automated Gay Space Communism.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Like,
Yeah,
that
I know.
that's what I
He
want to
definitely
watch.
does.
Well, to be fair, I feel like Austin's brand is not necessarily making things sound fun.
Shots fired. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't have that
love
sound.
Austin's brand. I just don't think it's that. I also love Austin the person. I want to make that clear.
I don't have,
All right, so
really quickly, I just
Yeah.
love when Steven or what's his Mr. Scotch is like, she's like, it's okay, it's fine that we're USDA Prime, whatever, and he's like, or we're USDA Choice, and he goes, you're a good woman for saying that, but you're a bitch because it's a lie and you're patronizing me. Like this idea of losing your Prime status
Yeah.
is such a fucking bummer.
This episode was a cool one, and actually, that episode was a cool one in that like it didn't have as many really good like thematically grounded jokes as they usually do. Like a lot of the theme stuff was pretty like serious,
Yeah.
or like intense, but like the one-off lines in this episode were fucking bangers. Like they had so many good like just throwaway jokes throughout the episode that were fucking hilarious, but there were very few that were as grounded in like
breaking our
the way that
backs,
the man-
loading
the
up
Man Bear Pig jokes,
forklifts.
like all about global warming stuff.
Yeah, I
In a way
mean,
that the basic jokes in this aren't necessarily as much about workers' rights things. They're sort of around it.
but that joke about being downgraded from prime to a less premium cut of meat is once again seemingly through a leftist frame, because like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, the labor is dehumanizing us.
Right.
Oh yeah, totally. But there's not quite as like one-to-one as they are in other past episodes.
Well, and again, I think this connection is tenuous, but also one part of my brain is like, oh, the jungle, which like it's not the only source of shitty things happening in factories, but like Upton Sinclair's whole point is like it starts with like the terrible way that the animals get slaughtered and how disgusting it is and like all the screaming, whatever, and then the rest of it is just how essentially this immigrant family, they're Lithuanian, gets like broken apart in the same way that like animal carcasses do, like just one by one they lose like any scrap of humanity, so that like metaphorically they're no better off than the like pigs that they're slaughtering. Like they're still,
I like that.
That still happens to them.
It reminds
Which-
me. Oh, sorry. Go
yeah.
for it, Alec.
No, I was just gonna say, and when I hear like USDA Prime, I'm like, oh, meat factories, Upton Sinclair.
The other
Man,
piece that reminded me of
book
that was
such a good book about workers' rights, and it just became the book to become vegetarian.
Yeah.
I think that's Josh, that employee Josh, who becomes the
Marxist
box.
Yeah.
It's deemed human error, but what human error happens when he's being most human? He's like, "Hi, folks," he's saying hi, and
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
he's most humane at that point, or he's most human at that point, which is considered error when he gets barreled by the machine, and eventually it's fucked up and deemed that way. But I thought that was also pretty clever.
I gotta warn you guys.
I just want to throw one thing in there really quick, which is, this is sort of not whatever, but between Cody in the Discord and the picture he posted in Telegram that throws in Jacob, I'm convinced that I'm wrong about Brainiac, except they do write him to sound like Brainiac, and I'll stand by that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the voice is not like the Tolosians. Just
Yeah, the character framing in the voice is very much Brainiac, but I'll give you that all the visuals. And Cody, shouts out to Cody in the Discord, because this is a comprehensive breakdown. Makes a good point about how it's the Telosians. So I'm convinced. Alec, you were right, and I'm sorry I yelled at you.
What was it?
I just wanted to say before we get into the
foundationally
mailbag,
untrue.
just to let you guys know, I mean, I'm definitely hanging on to this Marxist box thing. So from the future, when we're talking about scripts and stuff, if it's getting too lefty, I'll be like, it's getting a bit too boxy, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anyway, let's go into the mailbag. Let's start with our voicemails. Once again, if you guys want to send us any thoughts, questions, concerns, you want to yell at Lux, it's what is it? 21elfgut07.
Yeah, there it is. What a great
21elfgut07. And let's start with the first one. What do you got for us, Jacob?
Yeah, so first we got a lot of great voicemails. So first, we got a lot of people defining anxiety and defining ADD, and there was a lot of talk about, this is from the Buddha Box episode, just how these things work. So thank you to those folks who submitted all those things. We listened to them, and they're great. We've got a bunch of other questions, and I'll just kind of go with a random one. Let's see. Here is Austin talking about real anxiety.
Hey, wisecrack authoritarians. Austin here with a quick take on this week's episode, Buddha Box of South Park. As a person who not only suffers from diagnosed anxiety disorders, but is also on the other side of the therapist chair, shall we say, trying to become a therapist in his own right, I really feel like the main issue I had with the episode was that they conflated and kind of confused anxiety disorders with anxiety. As a lot of you guys say, everyone has anxiety. Even Kyle goes on to say it. Everyone has anxiety. Everyone has anxiety they have to deal with. It's just a part of life. It's part of the human condition. However, I feel like South Park made a mistake in this week's episode of not defining the difference between the two, because there are debilitating conditions where it's not just where it's not anxiety is my excuse that I don't want to do these things. Instead, it is what's forcing me from being unable to fulfill my role in my own life. And so, for one of the very few instances, I feel like South Park kind of came across as misinformed, or uninformed even, about this sensitive issue. And I feel like, as Lux mentioned, that by simply changing the frame of the narrative from going from Cartman and Kyle, where Kyle says everyone has anxiety, from Cartman to Tweek, where Tweek definitely has generalized anxiety disorder. Certainly. I feel like that would have been a much stronger message to send would be, hey, everyone has anxiety. Some people really have anxiety, and it truly does limit them. And don't conflate us with you, who just doesn't want to deal with people and wants to be on his phone all the time. So that's just my 2 cents. Thanks once again for listening. Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think we talked a bit about that last time, like the metaphor sort of break down a little bit. If the anxiety is conflated.
I think Lux's tweak suggestion is so good, and they need to hire you, and they need to hire you in the writers' room for that one.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Hey, look, get at me, Matt and Trey. As long as I can do it for my room, like I do for you guys.
Yeah, but you
I have anxiety.
To
I
work
don't
on South Park.
They've never really dealt with this nuance, though. Like, even in I think one of our other emails was talking about the ADD episode where they have that doctor who says that I have a new revolutionary technique. It's basically just beat your kids until they sit down and study. They never really address
the chef.
Right. Yeah. They never really address the nuance to these episodes. They never really say, oh, but there are actually extreme, verifiable, legitimate concerns with this condition.
Yeah, it just seems like this season, though, they've done a better job of like navigating trickier things. So it was sort of like, all right, I get that in like 2003, this wasn't your thing, but like it's 15 years. Y'all have gotten better at this. Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know that they've gotten more sensitive about mental health.
Okay, fair enough. Fair point.
Here we got a voicemail from Down Under from Australia. Now, this one sounds like a professional emailed us. It sounds really very well, engineered. But here it is. It only says He-Man. Let's see.
G'day, mates. I'm He-Man. I'm from Australia. That's not my real voice. I can't do that the whole time. Anyway, I just wanted to point out a fun background animated thing in the Buddha Box episode. When they are at the water park, it is a branch of Pee-Pee's water parks, and the majority of the people in the water parks are minorities. This is an obvious callback to season 13, episode 14, P. With the whole too many minorities in my water park song, which is a fantastic song, by the way. I just wanted to mention that. You guys are sick. Boy,
that's nice and tight.
Boy.
That's a very good little voicemail.
No, never.
Please call back
That's the only
and
Australian voice I can do.
Yeah, please call back and stay with the voice.
Yeah,
it was
stick
so
with it.
good.
Yeah. Hey, man, here.
G'day, mates.
I should make that part of the soundboard.
Yeah.
G'day, mates.
There it is. Let's get it one more
That
time.
fucking rules.
Yeah, roll threes.
G'day, mates.
There it is.
So good.
Oh, we got another voicemail. This is Nick from Nashville called in on his car, so the sound is pretty bad. But here's to talk about Buddhism.
Audio authoritarian. This is Nick from Nashville. Just want to say first off, I love the whole Wisecrack family. R.I.P. Ryan. But I just wanted to comment on the episode of the Buddha Box. Love y'all's last episode dealing with that, especially love that Jacob is nerding out with Buddhism. Freaking love it. I'm also a Buddhist nerd. But I think for the episode, it kind of you guys talking about hijacking Buddhism for commodification, like our culture does, like everything else. I was thinking about some particular sect of Buddhism Zen, and how basically Zen says that enlightenment is this moment right here. You practice sitting, you practice meditation, not to arrive at a certain destination, which is enlightenment, but that basically all of that, anything that tells you that is bullshit, and that this moment right here, who you are, is enlightenment. And so I also was thinking too about how you guys were talking about trying to convince people to get people to like South Park in relation to millennials. We feel better about saying like fuck and stuff like that. So I think that in relation to Buddhism and South Park, that we as a culture are moving away from othering people, and so we don't want to other people, except we other people who other people. But that's just a way of saying, like, we want to strip down that shit and be ourselves, which would be Zen enlightenment. Anyway, love you guys. Smooches. Goodbye.
Smooches. It's been a while since I heard that.
I like these voicemails.
They are fun. Keep them short and snappy if you guys can, though, because they're a little long. But this is really nice to hear from you guys.
I think Nick made a really interesting point though about how the sort of the way in which we do culturally or at least a lot of people in our generation culturally react against sort of like othering discourses, does like present a respect for self that is kind of like fundamentally Buddhist in the way that he's talking about. Like that's not something I've ever thought of before, but I think that's a fascinating connection to make.
Like to break down those divisions between people.
Yeah, that it breaks the
completely,
division between
melt
people, and that rhetoric that does like reinforce those divisions or like class issues or questions of like race stuff like that is bad now. I mean, it's always been bad, but it's like generally perceived as bad now in a way it wasn't before. Like speaks to like it is a respect for self that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, but like this respect for like freedom of selfhood or whatever seems very in line with a lot of like the Buddhist kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's the idea that we're really all exactly the same and things should just be. I mean, there's a sort of surrender to that. Last voicemail I'm going to play here is from Anders talking about Christmas episodes. I know we're about to approach Christmas and the end of the season, but let's see what Anders had to say.
What's up, authoritarians? Anders here. So this time of year, I want to get y'all's opinion on South Park and their Christmas episodes. So, in my opinion, starting with season 1 with the original Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh, all the way up through season 8 where we saw the original appearance of the Woodland Critter Christmas, there's not a show on TV that has a better string of Christmas episodes. My personal favorite is Red Sleigh Down, where Santa Sleigh gets shut down over Iraq. But everything about all their Christmas episodes is just fantastic. Now, they've done a couple of other holiday episodes in recent years. They had the History Channel Thanksgiving, the Black Friday trilogy. They did the Scoots this year as a Halloween episode, but they haven't actually done a Christmas episode in about 14 years, since 2004. Just wondering your guys' opinions on, you know, their holiday episodes in general, and if maybe this year, with the season going through mid-December, we might actually get a Christmas episode, particularly since they're backing off the serialization aspect. Keep up the great work. Love the podcast. Peace out.
First of all, love Red Sleigh Down. Great episode.
Yeah, all-time classic.
Not Santa's balls. Yeah, I guess because now we know that there's probably not going to be a Christmas episode unless they somehow turn part 2 into a Christmas episode. But yeah, that is
Which would be
weird.
a lot.
Yeah, that would. I mean, they already have. I already feel like they have too much going on that it's going to be really hard to
wrap it up.
To wrap it up in 22 minutes
And celebrate Christmas.
and celebrate Christmas. I mean, you know, we had the Mr. we had the Mr. Hanky episode, which was, I mean, he's a Christmas
back.
Pooh.
He's a Christmas Pooh.
And it was an early Christmas celebration.
And Anders got to like they've been doing other holiday episodes, and the other holidays have been all like universally bangers. The way the old Christmas episodes were like pretty universally fucking slappers. And I think that's something that they get at is like what South Park's best at is taking, you know, like classic sketch writing, like take a premise everyone knows and like turn it on its head in some way. And holidays are like the easiest way to do that. And they do the shit out of it all the time.
Lately, they've only done Halloween though. Like we have the Scoots episode.
Did they do Thanksgiving? They did Columbus Day last year.
Oh, that's
They
right.
did.
Yeah. But then last year they had Jack and Crack, which I loved. Yeah. So they mostly
well,
are doing
Halloween, like, fits
Thanksgiving
right in the middle of
and
the season for
Halloween.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for the voicemails. Very, very nice. What was the number again?
Yes, it's 21 Elfgut 07.
21 Elfgut.
So it's like 213-534-8807.
Oh, you've memorized the number now.
I hope that's right. I actually don't have it written down.
You're calling some guy named Jerry.
Yeah. All right. Lux, do you have some emails for us?
I do have emails, and just really quickly want to clarify, I would move to write on South Park if they asked. Alec raised a good point before, and I never got a chance to clarify. I'm just joking. All right, so we've got emails from several people. Thank you all for emailing in. We got a lot of really good ones, and I picked 3, but there were probably 15 that I could have chosen from. We've had a ton of great emails, so keep sending them in. But this is the only one that we got about this most recent episode, so we're using this one. It's from Quentin in Nebraska, and he says, I liked the new episode, but didn't love it, besides the montage in the beginning, which I thought was amazing. That being said, it was interesting how much of a change it shows in South Park's philosophy on covering business and capitalism. I read a review from the AV Club earlier that briefly compared the episode to Season 2 episode Gnomes. Hey, haha, which focused on a feud between Tweek's parents and Starbucks, ultimately siding with Starbucks. The reason I bring this up early in the episode, we actually see Mr. and Mrs. Tweek join the Amazon Fulfillment Center as workers, admitting their coffee shop couldn't compete. I find it really sad seeing Matt and Trey return the storyline from nearly 20 years ago to hammer in the point that companies like Amazon have entirely changed the game in ways a Starbucks or even a Walmart never could. It makes it that much harder for smaller businesses to survive. Skip the next thing. And he says, I remember what Jared said about not wanting to be infantilized by progress, and we're seeing how progress is ultimately forcing the old ways of doing things out, reminiscent of the Halloween episode, especially with the golem-like creatures at the mall who can't compete with the convenience the boys want. Jared mentioned not wanting to be delivered soap on his doorstep, but this episode views that as the ultimate conclusion if Amazon and companies like it eliminate all of its competition. So I'm finding myself wondering how close the people of South Park are to the Wall-E if convenience has become so hot a commodity as it's being treated as. Personally, I'm hoping that the town finds some way to get back its integrity before it's too late and alien Jeff Bezos wins. What do you guys think? Stay cool, authoritarians. Quentin.
It just
so
depends.
What do you guys think?
It just depends
I guess,
so
about
much.
This question of like integrity and progress, etc.
It just depends on what happens in the next episode. You know, we have no idea. I mean, they could end up being more in the gnomes camp, and they could just. I mean, Bezos could win, and Stotch could convince all of the strikers that, hey, our lives in Amazon are better than the alternative. I mean, it could happen. I don't know.
With the theme of resignation, that kind of would most likely happen, right? If that's consistent.
That said, there are some weirdly serious moments this season, especially in this episode. Multiple times, they're like, these are a proud people. Like, I think they say that twice. And I wonder what the purpose of that is, if there is reason to have hope. I don't know. I don't think there is, but
isn't there a line at the pub where they're like,
saying.
"What's the alternative?" And he's like, "Or what don't you have?" And he's like, "My dignity." What's the?
He says that we should be. Stotch says, "Well, we should be grateful to have a job. Before Amazon came here, we didn't have really anything." And the guy says, "Well, at least we had our dignity."
Yeah, because they are being stripped of their humanity in a sense, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
They're being turned into little boxes.
Right, and they're being downgraded as people,
or being lesser cuts of meat.
Lesser cuts of meat, and they are heirs because they are humans.
Yeah. Hopefully integrity wins out, I guess. But you guys are kind of right. Doesn't seem like the season is built for that to be what happens. Next, we've got another email from Omri from Israel, who says, "Love all your shows and podcasts, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, there was one scene that was cut out of the episode that I was... this is about Buddha Box, by the way. That I was really bummed out about. It's the one when PC Principal and Strong Woman are in the car looking for the babies. They start arguing. She puts the box on. She starts arguing with himself. He starts arguing with himself and eventually says something like, well, you want to hear what I really think? And then the scene cuts. I don't know about you guys, but I was really looking forward to hearing what PC Principal really thinks under his whole PC facade. They cut it. I really wanted to hear what you all think he said after the cut. Thanks for reading. Keep up the good work." So what do you guys think PC Principal said to Strong Woman when he said what he really thinks?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, this crossed my mind. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh, man, is he going to break the facade? Is he going to break down and he's going to basically say very un-PC things? And is that what you guys think they were going for? Because I don't know. Part of me just thinks that they just used that language to depict classic couples bickering.
With the ending of the episode, like where they're finally able to be themselves because no one's watching, I don't know. I thought it was a little less sinister and just more... I think like I just really, fuck the box. We should just be who we want to be kind of thing. Like we should be able to be proudly have these kids. And I don't think it was going to be a big confession of whatever un-PC things.
Yeah. And when no one's looking, they're still proudly PC. It's not that they stop being PC and, perhaps show some sort of authentic life behind the facade of PC-ness that gives them social currency or something.
Their only secret is that they're a couple.
I mean, maybe the joke is that, like, he's so PC, he doesn't even really know what to say when he has the opportunity for no one to hear him and just really speak his mind. I don't know.
And that all checks out. I didn't really have a good guess, so y'all had much more interesting shit to say than I did. So thank you. Anyways, next we've got our last email, and then we'll go to the Discord. This one's from Ben, who says, "Hello all. After watching this most recent episode, also Buddha Box, especially the ending, I think one of the major themes, while probably unintentional, is to what extent humans are barriers to their own happiness by their nature and what extent the institutions humans create for themselves limit happiness. This was clearly talked about at the end of the episode, where PC Principal and Strong Woman were able to ignore any issues about their image that may seem necessary for social success. At the same time, episodes like the Man Bear Pig episodes also highlight the inherent greed and vice that is present within humans that both created the existing institutions we live by and may very well cause their downfall. I was wondering what everyone's opinion is on this. Thanks, Ben.
Nah, we're good.
Just like extremely heavy text with like a really light sign off.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
What do you guys think about like this question of like how humans are their own worst enemy in this season?
I think it goes back to like the whole progress piece that I was talking about earlier, like these innovations that push us forward, the conveniences that we get so accustomed to and so excited for. They have their own repercussions in the same way. I was connecting it to like meat eating or to any number of conveniences that have that double. Walmart, prices are so low and it's so affordable and it drives the prices down for everything. It makes everything more consumable and life a little more affordable, and that's great. But then there's the cost. I think this whole I think we saw a little bit of that with the scooter episode, and we're seeing that clearly with Amazon, where it's like that whole roasting. Like again, it's you love it and hate it.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a real double. What Ben seems to be getting is a real double-edged sword of like to quote like every scientist from a sci-fi movie ever, like we asked if we could, but we never asked if we should. Like, and that's like so much of this kind of stuff, like the construction of institutions and social spaces are like,
yeah.
Perfect. Are so hinged on this question of like we certainly could make an Amazon or make these scooters, but like is it really good for everyone? Who knows? Like we can only find out by doing it.
Or like editing the genes of a baby with CRISPR.
Yeah, exactly. A perfect example. All right, let's hit the Discord where we have questions. 2 questions from Bear Zerker.
Hello.
Thank you very much. Cody had posted a lot of stuff, but I don't think any of those are technically questions. Just a lot of comments, but shouts out to Cody for a very thorough breakdown of the Telosians and some other interesting stuff in the Discord. If you want to read Cody's stuff or talk to us at any time, you can join the Discord by going to wisecrackplus.com. Anyways.
And you can spend your credits at our Wisecrack company store.
Anyway, so Beer Zerker. First question. Carmen and the boys seemingly get interested in the bike parade after seeing another kid scoring chicks. Do you think this means Heidi is no longer in the picture for the season? I think we can safely say yeah. Probably.
Yeah. R.I.P. Heidi. Yeah, she's been gone.
Major rip.
Not a trace of Heidi.
Gone but not forgotten.
It is weird. You don't really see the kids. I guess I'm like you. Are they interested in sex, or it was a weird moment for me. I'm like, oh, okay, like they want chicks, like that pops up like once every 3 seasons.
I feel like they want chicks is like because like the TV says you got to get chicks.
I also love, and I don't know if they did this on purpose, how the girls are like ostensibly the same age, but like 10 years older than the boys.
Are they the Raisins girls? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're basically like the 8-year-old Hooters version or whatever.
Right.
And then Beer Zerker's other question is he talks for a little bit about how this seems like this episode was a real reversal from the past, same with the Man Bear Pig ones, which begs the question, on what issue do you think they'll change their philosophy / apologize for next? Is there anything they've said in the past that you think that they would want to take back or change around? Question.
Well, he's saying they apologized. He's like, it seems like a flip from the libertarianism, which I don't necessarily think it is, but I still think it's an interesting question. So sorry, I'll leave that to you all.
Well, we don't know yet.
Exactly.
Right. Let's
Sorry,
see.
what was that?
I said we don't know yet. Maybe I think there might be an episode in the near future where they take celebrities like Tom Cruise and Mel Gibson and all these celebrities that they once like made fun of, and maybe they'll. Well, I guess they kind of already did this. Never mind. I was gonna say that they were gonna kind of try and redeem these celebrities in some way when they kind of perhaps do some sort of expose on how outrage and basically making a spectacle of celebrity dysfunction is like this whole big industry in itself, and that these people are like made weird by these vultures that make money off of making them go crazy. But I guess they kind of already did that with the Britney Spears episode.
Yeah, I also think there's like a difference between Britney Spears going crazy and Mel Gibson. I don't think fame made him the way he is. I think he's just that way.
Well, in one particular episode, they really just paint him as bonkers rather than necessarily anti-Semitic. So I guess I was kind of talking about 2 different things, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything particular off the top of my. I mean, maybe it seems like this episode and the Man Bear Pig one really sweep over a lot of the things they've said that are like kind of more specific. Like they might change their view on Priuses, but it seems like that's implied by like the Man Bear Pig episode, stuff like that. So I can't really think of a big specific shift. Amanda, it sounds like maybe you can.
Well, I was just going to say it'd be really funny if suddenly they were like, PC people actually have a really good point, but I don't actually see that happening.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Got nothing.
All right.
Thanks, Bearzerker, for the questions, and anyone else in the Discord for contributing as well.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to sign off. This has been Season 22, Episode 9 of Respect Our Authority. Next week, we have the season finale.
Oh, it's sad.
I know, it's my favorite time of year.
Now I should play the sad trombone.
Best show on television. Anyway, we will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Later, y'all.
Have a good one.